So, Hannah, thank you so much for accepting my invitation to interview you today. As I shortly explained you, I'm hosting this podcast or like interviews about expats around the world, which is like my biggest capital that I've built on through my years being abroad, traveling very often. So let's start by introducing yourself, or like what is your expat experience so far? You've been moving between several countries, so how do you want to share this?
So the whole experience is a bit of a long story, so I'll just start by introducing myself. My name Hannah Rattar. I've born and raised in Egypt until I was 24 or something, so yeah, hardcore Egyptian.
Yeah.
I think I moved to France first for my master's. It was 2018. I think I was already 24. I had already started working in Egypt for a year or so. Moved to France, did my master's, did 1 year there, then continued my internship place for 2 more months after my master's. Then COVID started, stayed in France. Maybe 1 year after I finished my master's and got my diploma, I finally found this opportunity here in Germany. I can also tell you how I got it. It's a bit like a not very typical story, but yeah, then I got it because I'm looking forward to do like my PhD. So I got in contact with some professors, and then finally, when they finally had an opportunity for me to work, and not just the PhD was a talk that we're going to talk about later, but they said, okay, we have a position, how about you apply? I applied, and now I'm here in Bavaria since 2 years. It's a bit scary to say that it's been 2 years, almost 2 years. I think I officially moved here in April 2021. So still 2 months. And yeah, that's that resumes my past few years. I think so.
Okay. So could you tell us more about like your experience in France, and how is that different from your experience here in Germany? How is that different so far? Is it the same culture? And yeah.
Well, it was totally different, I have to admit. So in France, I had some characteristics. Here I have different ones. In France, I spoke French almost fluently. Actually, it was fluently, by the time I left. I was a student, so obviously I was poor. Had a lot of friends from different cultures. France is a lot different than Germany. I think there's also this dynamic that French and German don't trust each other in the workplace a bit.
Okay.
Funny enough, the boss in the place where I was doing my internship is actually German, and she was like me, so she could understand French as much as I understand German. Could not really interact so much in French though. So it was it was a bit tough because there was COVID after the first year of my master's. But other than that, I think that it was I managed to find a group of friends. I was understanding everything I already knew about the culture before I came. Germany is totally different because I have never, ever imagined living in Germany. So when I was applying for my master's, actually, I applied in France as a plan A. My plan B was Italy. My plan C was German.
Okay.
Which I didn't even have to face. However, in France, I've met with my now fiance, and he is German. And then he moved back to Germany after his master's, and so we were also doing this whole long distance, and I was coming to Germany often. Yeah, so it was still the culture was not how I expected it. It's I don't know, I don't want to be mean, but a lot of the stereotypes about Germans are true.
Are true or are not true?
Are true, I would say. How you have to be focused, you have to be to the point, you have to be punctual, you have to do this, you have to do that, which is something I'm happy to adapt to. It's always very productive, it's always very nice. Okay. I'd say I still struggle a bit with not everyone being so easygoing. the French were very easygoing.
Okay.
I don't know, it's starting to be racist. I hope it's not, but like it's just different stuff. However, like yeah, so my characteristics in Germany are different because like, I'm still learning German. But honestly, like people have been so nice, trying to always speak English to me as much as they can. I have a job, so I'm very well paid compared to scraping the ends in France. Yeah, and then like I live alone here. I always lived in shared flats in France, and now I finally like have a place where I live by myself. Yeah, I'm more independent. Let's say I'm more grown up than I was in France, so I'm a bit more ready to to adapt to the challenges that Germany has, which was not true in France. I'd say I was a bit fragile in France.
Okay, I understand. So maybe you have just mentioned that you are more fragile in France. How do you think it would have been easier for you if you knew something differently before you moved to France to make the experience maybe easier? Is there something?
If I had known there would have been a pandemic,
that would have been again.
That there would have been a pandemic. If I had known that beforehand,
okay.
preparing beforehand would have been cool. I think it was very hard understanding the study system in France, honestly. So you have like different levels of masters. You start with the M1s, finish by M2. I was not even sure how many years I was going to be staying in France because I was not fully comprehending how many years is my master's. It ended up being 1 year, which was cool. I got my degree in 1 year, but it was very complicated. Maybe something, I don't know. A lot of stuff happened in France, I think. I think I would have, like, I was not very good at finding temporary jobs. I think I was like convincing myself that, okay, no, I'm going to wait. I'm going to have an opportunity in my field and so on. While it would have helped just working in a restaurant or something, just like not to always be dependent. And so I think this is something that I was not very easily adapting to, just being flexible, finding whatever job. I was also a bit scared because I had just moved to Europe. So I was very scared of doing something that, the immigration office would find illegal. That, okay, what should I tell the people? What should I notify the tax office? What should I do? And so that's also why I was not very eager to start a temporary job, because I was thinking, okay, let's just stick to the basics. I do my master's, I find a job in my field, which ended up not being so easy during COVID, but
I can totally understand. Yeah, and we have a different culture from Egypt. Like in Egypt, I mean, like I think like growing up in Egypt, it's not very common if you are graduating from a certain university or coming from a certain social level, that you're not used to doing this kind of mini job or a side job until you find a path in your career in something that you've studied. And it's not a very easy mind shift or mindset to change. So I also had this mindset arriving to Germany. Also during my master's, I also came here for a master's degree on a scholarship. And then during the journey, I was almost losing my scholarship because I could not finish it in time. So it was very also challenging situation. And I had to find some ways. I didn't want to ask my parents for money, and I also had to do some side jobs. I was teaching in a school, like helping students, or I was working in a language center teaching English with my limited skills for sure. But yes, and it was also like somehow a shameful experience at the beginning. Oh, I'm not working in my career as an architect. I have this master's behind me and I'm not doing this. So yeah, so it is really a challenge, and and you sometimes you feel like stuck. I don't want to go back, but I can know how to move forward, and it's not easy sometimes. But
how it went for you, but it was also like whenever I encouraged myself to go apply, like okay, let's knock on this restaurant door and ask if they have a position, I was also wondering, okay, what am I going to tell my parents? Because they were not very happy about me moving like to Europe. They wanted me to stay with them and so on. So how do I tell them that, yeah, I left my job as a landscape architect in Egypt and like, you know, one of the big companies, so I can come here and work in a restaurant. And I could not like imagine how this conversation would go. So even when I encouraged myself to go, I just like, okay, no, maybe we'll just wait.
Yes.
So yeah, that was like always a blockage for me as well.
I can totally understand.
Yeah.
Okay, that's part of the struggle. What are the best moments that you lived in France?
I mean, now that you say it, I don't know why, but the first thing that popped into my mind was when I went to that music festival, which I went to by myself. It was very cool because I was like thinking, oh, it was gonna be weird just me being by myself in the music festival. But I ended up meeting some people there, and it was very fun. Really, the shared flat life in France was very good. I had only one bad experience, but all the rest were still very much talking and got introduced to so many people. I think the best thing is that I really knew people from very different cultures. Like I just met a lot of, you know, such a big palette of nationalities that I got to meet, and it was always very fun, you know, having a night, you know, at someone's house, like I don't know if it would count as a house party. It was not as cool as a house party should be, but you know, just like playing music from different places and then just dancing and doing this and doing that. I think that was the best thing. I'd say like mostly the people I met there, they were the best thing about France. I think I also got introduced to a lot of, because I did my internship in an NGO.
Sorry, the sound was okay. An NGO.
Yeah, I'm a very, I'd say like I really like, you know, caring about the people and so on. It was not the easiest internship to do, but I still like opened that door to myself. Or like, okay, yeah, that's what I like to do. I would like to do something that supports people, that, you know, does good for the community and so on. So yeah.
Okay, that sounds awesome. And yeah, like as I told you, even before starting this video, I think I started to have this idea and hosting people because I thought like, okay, what is the biggest thing that I have after all this journey? And I think it's also the people that I knew through this journey. And I think our social network changed completely moving abroad, and somehow our normal structure being in Egypt, growing up with the same people we went to school with and we went to college with, it's totally a different experience here. And then all our friends, like you meet friends and then everyone's going back somewhere in the world. So it's really interesting to reconnect. Okay, so you've mentioned some struggling and some best times, and then you talked a little bit about the social network. Mm-hmm. You had this amazing experience in France. How is that now in Germany, having your own social network? Especially, you mentioned, where are you living again?
I'm living in Passau.
Okay, so you said that is somewhere close to the borders of Austria. It's between Turkey and Austria.
Yeah, you literally, I walked once to Austria. A lot of people, like, you can, during the summer, everyone walks to Austria to swim there. It's like really a walking distance. It's quite different, I'd say. But I think it's, I honestly, I don't know why it is that different. Maybe also the location is not very supporting of this social network thing, because Passau is a very university city. And so most of the people who live here are studying here. And then they eventually leave the university, they find a job somewhere else, and then they move. So far, most of the people I hang out with, I actually work with as well. However, it's also different because, as I said, my fiance is German. His family, they live half an hour away from me.
Interesting.
Which has put me a bit more in this family life as well. So I visit them sometimes, you know, like it's different than France, because in France I had friends, but it was like, you know, having a family is different. Like I literally had a problem with the gas and I was worried, and then I called them like, oh, what should I do and who should I contact and so on. It's different with friends because, you know, we're all going through this at the same time. Yes. And no one knows. They would have probably called me as well to ask me what to do. So I think like, yeah, it's quite different. Harder to make friends, but now I think I have family here, so it's also nice.
That's also nice. Okay, that's really different. And also I think having a German friend or now also family, it makes a whole different experience from being in a foreign country where you really have no belongness in a way or another. So yeah. And you are working in the academic career since you started. So you graduated and then you had some practical experience in Egypt, and now you are having an academic career. So how is the work environment in Germany? How was it in France? How do you find it so far?
I'd say like, okay, if we're discussing pros and cons, I don't really want to compare the two countries because
you
I
don't
also,
have to. If I may elaborate, it's more like, okay, now if I'm an Egyptian per se, or I come from a different country other than France or Germany, what do you think, like, if I'm considering this moving decision, that I would need to know? Like, considering, okay, I'm moving to France, knowing for sure that your experience is Hannah's experience. It's not the experience of everyone moving there, but maybe there are some points that you think, okay, if I would have known that before moving, maybe it would have facilitated my way.
Yeah. So I think I'll start like maybe with Germany and maybe put some points in France, because as I said, like France was just an internship, so it was a bit of a special case. But I think what's very good here is that when you learn or when you increase your skill sets, you get a better chance, or you get a better position, or you get a better salary. And it's a very straightforward road. Especially like it's different, of course, between academia and the private sector, I'd say, because academia is also public. So literally like how much you're gonna get paid or which position you can take is already predefined. And it's not really your employer's place to negotiate it.
Yes.
Of course, the public, the private sector is then different, but still it's all in the span of, okay, if you learn this, if you get this degree, you'll get a better chance. If you learn this skill, you'll get a better chance. If you expose, like you increase your network, you get a better chance. And it's a very straightforward, and I think that's really what I like, because like knowing that, okay, there is a way to like better the situation in any case. Maybe the struggle, I don't know. I mean, you said you're not sure if this is like a feminist podcast before we talk, but I have a feminist point, which I was already discussing like with my professors, is that I don't see a lot of women in my university, or actually in a lot of like places where I meet people. Like you said, it's academia, so I go to conferences, I do this and do that. The ratio in France was higher, I have to admit, like how many women are in the workplace. And especially because, so I work in the geoinformatics department.
Well,
so it is a bit considered also a bit informatic, and globally, like women are not that represented in it, I'd say. So maybe that's also a reason. Maybe it's a reason that it's a small city, so usually like you don't have this much diversity. But yeah, this is something like I noticed, is that, you know, I don't know, it's still different from Egypt. Like it's still like you have your rights, you have everything. However, we don't see this representation. Like I can be the only girl in the room the whole day.
Yes.
And it's a bit strange. What's something that I would tell someone before they move, maybe? Let me think. This is an important question. Because I have a friend who's probably moving as well to Europe, and he was also asked me, and he was also struggling to find out the words. Let's see. I think something that I would tell is that maybe don't be scared, because before I moved to Germany, you know how I think everyone in the whole world has this idea that Germany is like, you know, far ahead in technology, and they do this and they do that, and they know how to do everything, and nothing can go wrong. Everyone knows what they're doing. And I think how everyone who grows up and starts working realizes that in general, no one knows what they're doing in the workplace. And this is kind of like a universal experience, but I think it also applies to Germany. So don't worry, like it's okay. You can learn. Everyone is learning.
Yes.
If you are in a position, and it's just something like, I was also, how you have this imposter syndrome. I was thinking, oh, okay, maybe like I just got hired because they felt bad for me. Maybe I'm not actually good. But then also, like, I was talking with a friend. He was telling me, come on, like they're Europeans. Like they're not Egyptians. They will not hire you out of the goodwill of their heart. If you are good at something, that's why you got hired. And that's honestly, it was very reassuring to hear it out loud. And that is actually true. So if you do get a position, it's fine. You're as qualified as everyone in the office. Just do it, just work in it and express yourself. And it's gonna be okay. Which is, maybe something else, like, because I know it's always something that we're always afraid of, that there is gonna be racism in the workplace. That's a very rare case, I'd say. Like, because so far I haven't actually seen it. Like, there could be racism in, like, when you're applying for a specific card or in the bureaucratic world. But I think so far I have not actually faced this, and it's okay. We're all treated equally. It's okay. Like, it's just some stuff that I was afraid of. I would have rather like have someone reassure me about it, so I'll be confident all the way. Yeah. So maybe that would be something I would say.
Okay. A moment. Sorry. Yeah. Stop. Sorry. So thank you again, Johanna.
No worries.
So thank you for sharing so far your experiences and giving some insights about Germany and France. And thank you very much for encouraging. And that's a very interesting quote or like advice that you shared. Like, don't be scared, because everyone is having this immense fear before moving to somewhere new, and it's moving into the unknown in a way or another. So that's why I thought maybe this interviews would help give some more information, so people are making more of an informative decision moving abroad. And also like, it is a fearful situation going into somewhere new, but maybe having more people sharing their experience to give more light to them. So how is your German barrier language developing?
Well, I'd like to say it's developing. Let's see. I don't know, it's quite hard, like learning German. I think it's also hard because I just started. Sometimes I think maybe I'm too old to learn any language. I think it's fine. I think it's quite easy to convince people like to go easy on you with the language. Everyone has been super helpful, honestly. Like they could switch to English in a meeting, or just try to encourage me to learn and try to encourage me to practice and so on. And I don't know, like, it was not so hard to understand the basics, I'd say. It's kind of hard to be, actually be able to express myself and so on. But yeah, I mean, it is a barrier, I'd say, especially like in making friends, because you have to take the friends who are willing to, just be sitting, talking with the friends, but they have to switch to English. And I always feel bad, when I'm meeting a group of people and they have to switch English for me. Like, you always have that, feeling bad about it, because they're just hanging out. It's not work hours. They should not have to speak a second language. So it's been hard in the aspect of making friends. But other than that, in work, like I was just telling you before the podcast, because I'm living in Bavaria, so actually the obstacle is learning Bavarian. It's not just learning German, which is a whole other thing. But I have managed to survive, I'd say.
Okay.
It's definitely a must. It's definitely something I need to work on more. But trying.
Do you think it would have made a difference if you learned German? You were raised in a French school.
Yeah, I was in a French school in Egypt. Well, obviously that made it very easy to understand French then, but I don't know.
Okay. So what do you miss most about Egypt, Johanna?
Well, I definitely miss my family and friends. I mean, even if I didn't, I would have to say that. But I really do miss them. I miss also this, I don't know if it's called freedom or not, but you know, in Egypt, everything was always very spontaneous. You know, just finishing work, texting my friends, meeting somewhere, doing this, doing that, staying out until midnight, and then going home, and then doing it all over again. Somehow you never get tired, and it was okay. I miss definitely the sun. I was not missing it that much in France. It was okay in France, but I'm really missing the sun and being 2 hours away from the beach. You know, like I lived in Cairo. I always was living in Cairo. However, you could always just spontaneously decide on the weekend, oh, let's go to the Red Sea, and it was 2 hours away, and it was fine. Here it's always, you know, planning ahead and doing this and doing that. I miss a lot of stuff. I mean, I miss also speaking Arabic in the daily life.
Yes.
Yeah. It was always, you know, sometimes now I just switch, like, I don't know, my brain lags and I start switching to Arabic. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like just the lifestyle, this free, spontaneous lifestyle.
Okay. And do you imagine yourself spending your life here in Germany, growing up, growing old, or do you think you would like to go back to Egypt at some point? Do you have a plan, or how do
Can
you
there
feel?
be like, you know, an option C?
Yes. Yeah, we have to always think outside the box. And yeah, I'm always the same. Like, if you give me options, I have to create another options out of them. So feel free. I'm not trying to bias your question. You are a researcher and you know what I mean. So no bias. Feel free.
Yeah, I would rather live like somewhere else, not Germany, like, or at least going also in the next 2-3 years, I see myself in Germany. I feel like I struggled a bit moving to Germany from France, honestly. And I was even talking about it before. I was telling my friends, I feel like I was in this denial of thinking, because I've always wanted to live in France, like since I was in high school. I've always wanted to live in France. I specifically wanted to live in Paris, but you know how we, like, I don't know, I feel like we barely know anything about France outside of Paris when we're young. And this is like what everyone knows. So I've always had this idea of, oh, I wanted to live in Paris, I wanted to live in France. And then when I couldn't find a job there, maybe COVID, maybe I was just, you know, didn't really know how to navigate the market. And I finally found a job in Germany. I felt like, okay, I will come back to France one day and I'll find a job there. And I feel like for the past, no, so the first year I moved here, I was just in this denial phase of thinking it's just a temporary thing. And once there's something, I'll move back, like somewhere else, and move to France, move to anywhere else. And so like just recently, a few months ago, I've decided myself, no, come on, Germany is amazing. Everyone would dream to do their PhD in Germany or like, you know, work a bit in Germany or something. I can learn German, I can do this, I can do that. And once I'm done with this phase, I can then think about moving again. So I've finally decided for the next few years, I'm living in Germany, hopefully, at least 2-3 years, like 3-4 years, maybe if I still do start my PhD soon. Afterwards, I would like to experience living somewhere else. I think I get bored fast.
I understand, like living abroad, you always want to try somewhere else and change
Exactly.
and try and exploration everywhere.
Yeah, and you finally realize it's not as hard as we thought in Egypt, because like when you're in Egypt, it's a whole process and you have to, you know, be a millionaire to afford getting a visa somewhere. And then when you're finally, you know, outside and think, okay, actually I can go different places. And I think people also are more willing to hear you when you say, oh, I work in university in Germany, then actually someone in the US might answer your call as opposed to, you know, calling him from an Egyptian number. So yeah, definitely open doors. So I would like to exploit this a bit before I settle down.
Wow, okay. And how do you think that this whole journey changed Hannah? Like, how do you see the progress in your personality? How was you before traveling to France and now traveling also to Germany? What are the versions? Because personally, I feel there used to be a version of myself when I was born and raised in Egypt. And there was this cultural norm. Like everyone is almost raised in the same way. My circle of friends or social network, they're almost like raised in the same way, same standards, everything. And I felt like I belonged. And then I traveled in different places. I was traveling so often. And then I was meeting people from different backgrounds, cultural, social levels, religions, everything.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, where do I belong? And what are my beliefs? And I was starting to question everything about me and everything in Egypt, because
Yeah,
like, okay,
definitely.
so how was it? Like, I think now I'm a different version of myself.
Yeah.
How is that for you?
I mean, I could talk for a whole hour about this. So I don't want to take like, too much time. I think it's true because like I definitely have a different version of myself living in Egypt or living in Europe. I don't know if there is a big difference between France or Germany. I don't think so. But I think one specific obstacle like that I had to overcome is, as you said, so in Egypt you belong. You're even because I was in French school and then I went to Ain Shams, which is like a high name university, and then you worked in a nice company. Oh, you speak English, you speak French, you speak Arabic. I didn't have a car, but I always drove my mother's car. Like you're a bit like middle class or upper middle class, and then no, it was not upper middle class.
Yeah,
Middle
back
class
then.
is not.
It's okay. Yeah, we are hard to specify.
Exactly. But then like you move to Europe and then you're a foreigner, and then you're put into this group, and I don't know, it was like just something that maybe you're not very much aware of when you step into a room, but it sometimes comes to you. So it's not that it's racism, but it's like it's a different category. Like you're not from the country, you're not navigating that as well as they are, and yeah, it's like it shakes your confidence a bit, I'd say, because I've especially noticed it, for example, and also like my fiance noticed it because so I moved here to Germany, and then he was the one who knew how to do everything, and then I took him to Egypt, and he was like, okay, you're a very different person in Egypt.
Oh,
Because I
interesting.
was because he said, okay, you were very confident, you were like, okay, let's go here, let's go there, let's do this is how we talk to this person, this is how you do that. And like in Germany or even in France, it was a bit shaky. Like in Germany, obviously, because I don't even speak the language very well, so it's like, do they understand me, do they not? In France, it was also, oh, they noticed my accent, my accent, and it was like something, okay, maybe we need to work on this. Like I always thought, okay, I saw my French friend, he was dealing in this situation in that way, so I'm just gonna imitate him. It's like not very spontaneous or like not coming, nothing that I inherently know how to navigate. And I think that really shakes your confidence.
Yes.
However, like I think I've become a lot more independent since I've moved to Europe. And I think that I learned something, which is I've always struggled to learn it in Egypt. I've never had to. But in Europe, I've learned more that it's okay to ask for help. And that's something that I really had to like very consciously work on because I always was, I'm gonna manage, I'm gonna do it by myself. And then after a while in France, especially, like a lot of stuff happened, and then I was just confronted with, okay, it's okay. You can just ask for help. You don't have to go all this way by yourself. It's okay. Just people are here. Ask them. They will help you. It's totally fine. And yeah, so I think that's something I definitely learned. Maybe especially during COVID, I'd say, because you just like you have to sit by yourself. And France was horrible when it comes to lockdown. Like we literally sit there, like for an eternal amount of time. And yeah, so that's something I'm really proud that I've finally learned. Still struggle a bit with, but
yeah, we all do.
Yeah,
but definitely I totally agree on that point, like, because I feel like I got my independence, and then that's the point, like, okay, people don't like to hear this very often at the nowadays time, and then associate you to different category, but it is really like somehow you get some independence, like you get more responsibility, because somehow we have this spoiled life somehow in Egypt.
Exactly.
Especially in our class, we are used, somebody's helping at home, somebody's bringing you the supermarket to your home, bringing me the laundry to your home sometimes in our social level, I would say. Then you move to Germany or to Europe, and then you are like, okay, you're in a lower class, I would say, and then you have to learn to do everything. But still, we are not raised to this, like, asked for help. And also
Yeah.
people judge the culture in Germany, especially like, why isn't somebody the initiative to help me without asking? And it's something here, a different culture, you know, like people won't come intervene in your personal space and offer help, even though you didn't ask for it. So it's
Yeah.
not that they are being not helpful, but also you did not ask. So
Yeah,
they do it
definitely.
sometimes out of respect. And yeah, and also especially during COVID, during the lockdown, especially somebody who's like you and me, I was living by myself alone.
Mhm.
And it drove me crazy. Like people were the social network. And then it was like, okay, we intentionally have to ask for help. We intentionally, if we get sick and we're living alone, we intentionally have to ask for help. We intentionally have to let the people know that we have the need to
Yeah,
socialize, you know. So it came
definitely.
to our mind like, okay, what should we take care of? And we have to definitely ask for help. Yeah, so that's a very good point that you raised. Yeah, I know you have an appointment soon, so I won't make it very long for you now. But
So
what
I'm
is
really having
what
fun.
so much? But what when I think about the podcast, or like when you heard about it, what made you like take the courage or take the step to put yourself out and share this
Mm.
experience? What was your intention?
Well, honestly, I really wanted, like, to talk about everything because I don't know if it's like fair to say, but I always feel like, and I think like some other people that I've met, Egyptians who travel like to France or to Germany, they shared the same opinion with me. Some friends I have is that I don't feel very allowed like to talk about my experience with people in Egypt. It's like, okay, I
Yeah.
can tell them everything, of course, like they would listen, but there's always this blockage. And it's not that they wouldn't understand, but there's always this saying like, okay, but if you struggled with this, you could have just come back to Egypt. It's just
Exactly.
no one forced you to leave. Like this is always an argument. Another argument is like some people who really wanted to be there, they don't actually notice that, oh, maybe it's hard. Oh, maybe there are problems there. No, because they just really want to like to be in your position. And I understand that, I respect that, but like it's also puts you in a position where like, okay, in some cases you cannot complain because you could have just come back to Egypt. In other cases you cannot complain because you're living the high European lifestyle. Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. And so it's just like it was a nice chance to put everything in perspective, to just talk. Yeah, there are good things, there are bad things. I think when you do something that you wanted to do, it's always more good than bad, hopefully. If you're not instantly regretting your decision.
No.
There's obviously, yeah, everything that's bad loses a bit, its intensity. So yeah, so it's just like, it was nice, to be asked like, okay, what's your experience, and talk about everything. And I think it's especially like when you said the questions about, oh, what would you say to someone who wants to travel? What would you say to someone who wants to come? Because yeah, I know that everyone can be successful in their own country, but just wanting to travel to work somewhere else is very independent of the success story. I feel it's just like something that you want to do, you have to do it. So yeah, so it's nice like to, I don't know, to share your experience.
Yes, it
Maybe
is.
someone
And actually, yeah, and actually you raised a very important point. Like, if you are very successful at your own country, if you are very successful at your career, and it's your comfort zone, you have this social support network of family and friends around you, probably in Egypt to some extent, and you are knowing the language, you're familiar with the context. So working abroad, it's not only about the challenge of your career itself. So it's really,
Yeah.
really a big struggle to work in your career. And then you're not being questioned, or you're not being challenged only about by your career and work environment, but also by your personal life experience. That's something very important to consider. And the very important, thank you for mentioning it. When I started this podcast, also, it was somehow like a spark that when I'm sharing my experience, like when I go back to Egypt, I would love to move back to Egypt at some point. I tried so many times, it's not working so far. But then when I come back to Germany, and then I would talk to a Turkish friend of mine or a Moroccan, and then somehow I can relate to my experience more when I'm speaking to her, and she can relate more than my friends in Egypt, because
Exactly,
they saw an earlier version of me, which is not exactly the same. That's one point. And second, if I complain like you do, they're starting saying like, why are you in Germany? Why don't
Yeah,
you just
exactly.
move back? You are
Yeah.
privileged here. Why are you living this life in Germany? Why it's your choice. You have to take care of the consequences, which is like, yes, you people are also complaining about your life in Egypt. Why are you still moving abroad? You know, like life is not really black and white, you know, like I made a
Yeah.
decision which has some pros, has some cons. I'm not really like living the superior life being in Europe, nor are you living in the best life because you have the social life. It's always a
Definitely,
trade-off.
yeah.
So thank you for, because like also like this podcast is like a support group for all expats feeling like because my friend was also saying the same. We don't belong totally in Egypt and we don't belong totally in Germany or
Yeah.
in the place we're living at. So thank you. It's a common feeling, and thank you for sharing your experience, because also this question I felt like, okay, I faced the wave of like being abroad in my face, you know?
Yeah.
So really by myself, learning by doing, and I think it makes a lot of effort and insight and informative decision if you ask different people. So I really hope that what talking is also a relief for us, but also making the way easier for other people, maybe listening to us. I don't know. But thank you so much, Hanan. I don't want to take more of your time. I know you have a
No, it's
different
really fun.
send the appointment next. And thank you so much for your sharing experience. And yeah, let's meet soon.
Yeah, we'll probably meet too. Thanks a lot, really, for this like podcast. It was really fun talking and like seeing you again. I haven't seen you in a while, so it's very nice
So
knowing
much.
your updates as well. Hopefully, I will text you soon and we can meet in the middle. Maybe not in Passau, but
Okay.
come closer.
Yeah. Thank you so much and have an awesome day.
You too. Have a nice weekend.